Hello, I am Ellie. The environment that you are in impacts everything. It impacts the way that you feel, the way that you think, the beliefs that you have about yourself. It affects everything, your thoughts, the way you move about in the world. So our environment is critical. And just to give you an example of this, I'm going to tell a little story about raising crickets. So during COVID in 2020, I decided to fill my time with getting a bunch of frogs and delving into the frog world. So fun. I loved it. And I came to understand, because I had so many frogs, that it would make sense to just raise crickets myself instead of going to the pet store all the time. And so I started to raise crickets, and I noticed that these crickets, they really liked a heat lamp. So I would provide them with this heat lamp they could warm under. They really enjoyed the light and the heat. I noticed that they liked watermelon, so I would provide them with fresh watermelon, and I would energetically feel these crickets. I am an energy intuitive, so I feel energy very strongly. And crickets are really incredible because they stare at you right in the eyes. They make eye contact. And so I noticed a big difference between the crickets that I was raising, caring for them, providing this environment that was really catering to them, versus the pet store crickets, where they were raised in these bins in complete darkness, no watermelon. And the energy from these crickets was completely different. The crickets that I raised had this calm, peaceful, happy cricket energy. And the crickets from the pet store were gnarly. They had this energy. I got this vision of them wearing bandanas and holding knives. They were just really gnarly energy. And this was because of their environment. So as children, we have no control over our environment. We are subject to whatever environment that our caregivers are providing for us. But as adults, we have almost complete control over our environment, or we have a lot of control over our environment. And our environment is everything. It's everything around us. So it's the people around us, it's the conversations we have, it's where we live. Now, this is the one part we might not have as much control over, like the area or the place in the world we live. It is also the music we listen to, the things that we choose to watch and consume. Our environment is the food that we eat, the water that we drink. So our environment is everything. And so we have a lot of choice around our environment, and therefore how we are being affected, because everything is energy. Everything is energy interacting with other energy. And energy is information. Energy activates. Energy affects the thoughts, the emotions, so the body, the mind. It affects everything. So we can choose to be cautious about what we allow into our environment. And one of the first places to start, if you do not like the environment you're in, you don't like the type of relationships you keep drawing in, you're just not satisfied with your environment, the first place to start is with your inner environment. Because the relationship that you have with yourself, the way that you are being with yourself, is going to be directly reflected back to you externally. So as within, so without. So we can start, most importantly, with our inner environment. So our thoughts, with how our beliefs, and with how we're feeling. So as a child, from that environment we were in, we developed so many subconscious beliefs and programs, conditions about ourselves, about our worth, about what we're capable of, about our place in the world. And so we can actually change the programming and conditioning that we received as a child. First, by becoming aware of what those beliefs are. So for me, as a child, as an energy intuitive, even as a child, I felt energy very, very deeply. And the energy environment in my home was one of deep pain, deep suffering. So I actually took took on that energy as a child and as a youth all the way into being an adult until I had awareness. And a lot of the beliefs, the conditions that I took on from my childhood were that I was not worthy of love, that I was living in poverty and that I would always live in poverty, that money was really hard to come by and it just wasn't for me, not for people like me. I developed the belief that relationships are difficult and there's a lot of fighting and conflict and yelling, and that that's normal. So these are just an example of some of the beliefs that I took on from my environment. And so once I became aware of these, I was able to go in through meditations, reflections, and change these beliefs. So this is possible for us. So literally the first step that I did was I just started to write down all of my beliefs about anything. So I started in categories. What do I believe about money? What do I believe about love? What do I believe about my worth, my place in the world? And I would just start writing things down. And then I would go in and I would reflect on that. And I would feel into my body. I would be able to connect to my own self-worth, even at a small level. And what I would do is, instead of focusing on the old beliefs, I would feed into myself towards a new belief I wanted to have. So worthiness. I would start to go into meditation and feel and think and just allow myself to bathe in the energy of worthiness, that I was lovable, that I was worthy of love. And I did this for every single belief that I had. And the more I did this, and the more I started in combination with that to observe my thoughts. And when a thought came in, like, you're not lovable, no one's ever going to love you, it's just an example, I would say, oh, okay, no, that's not true. Actually, I'm lovable. You know what? I love me. And so even if no one else around me agrees, I'm going to love me. And I would feed into that by, again, going into meditation and activating love, just feeling love. So this is really powerful if you're starting off at a place where actually you don't feel worthy, you don't feel lovable, your self-confidence is really low. Just going into a meditation. I always put high frequency vibrational music that I find here on YouTube, and the sound is activating. It moves energy within you, and music holds a frequency. So if you specifically type in high frequency music, love, for example, then that frequency is going to move through you and help you to activate love. So I would just go into these meditations and I would just intentionally activate, evoke love. It didn't have to be, and it wasn't in any direction. It wasn't towards anyone or anything, except I was feeling that love within myself, and I was just activating this love. This, I can tell you, changed my life. Just doing this one thing, going into meditation and connecting to love, it grew the love inside of me. And whatever we are feeling and being and emanating comes back to us. So I started to draw in teachers that were teaching me about love, teachers that were telling me about self-worth and how to change beliefs, and all of this guidance kept coming in because I was doing the work. I was taking action. Action is so important when we want to change our environment, change our life. It's not enough to just think positive thoughts, to feel positive things. We also need to take action. Every single action that we take is creating, is manifesting, and our thoughts and emotions are important as well. But all of these things together is what creates change. So when you start to change your inner environment, when you start to honor yourself and love yourself, also remembering to love and honor others, because how we are being, so if we are going to just love ourselves, but when it comes to other people, we have no love, we don't care about them, that's how we're being. So we're actually putting out this conflicting energy, love versus unlove. And so we're going to get back this weird mix of things. So when I started to really focus and take action on loving, evoking love as an action towards everything and everyone, including myself, my life started to change. So our environment is going to really, really affect us, and also as within, so without, our inner environment is affecting our outer environment. And so sometimes this happens, or oftentimes this happens to people if you are on a spiritual path. If you have a spiritual awakening, you awaken to the fact that you are love, that to the fact that you are not your thoughts, that you are experiencing your thoughts, and you awaken to how much power and control you have to move about in this world, to draw things into your life, to create, to manifest. You have so much power in who you are being. Then you start to stand in your power. And what happens is people will start to fall away. And it can be very scary when this happens, but this is all supposed to be happening. Everything is happening for us, for our growth, for our transformation, so that we can become something new. And so it's just so important to really look at your environment that you're in, the things that you are thinking, the things that you are saying. Our words are powerful. The things that you are listening to, watching, the people that you choose to be around. An interesting fact is that we start to become like the 5 people we spend the most time with. So even just taking a look at that, who are the people that you spend the most time with? Those people you are actually exchanging energy with. And so you start to become like, take on qualities like the people that you are around. So the people that we choose to be around is a very important part of our environment. So you're so powerful. We are affected by our environment, but we have so much control as adults on what we are surrounding ourselves with, what we're taking in, what we're consuming, what kind of conversations we're having. So I just want you to know that your environment matters significantly, and as an adult you have so much control over this. So you have so much control over how your life unfolds, and by what energies you allow to remain in you, to grow, and when you decide also to pivot away from these things and make changes. So I hope that you were served in some way by this video. If you were, please like and subscribe to support me, and I will love to connect with you soon. Thank you.